streets of sunny St. Petersburg, Florida, side of the Honda Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. Session number 2 for the Firestone Indy Lights as they prepare for the St. Petersburg 100. Mark Janes, Mike King here on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Radio Network and IndyCar Radio, to be joined by Nick Yeoman and a few other folks. And Mike, one of the much heralded rookies, atop the speed chart after session number 1 this morning.
Yeah, you know, Tristan Vautier is a driver that we're going to have to keep our eye on. He's in the number 77 Sam Schmidt Motorsports Mazda Road to IndyCar. We, of course, watched Connor Daly and Brian Clausen share the duties in that car last season, along with Daniel Harrington. Daniel Harrington came back to make a few starts in that car. But Tristan Vautier, Mark, it looks like will be in that car for the season. He was a standout last year in Star Mazda. Won the championship in 2011, and yeah, he was at the top of the charts here earlier this morning in Firestone Indy Lights practice session number 1, followed by a guy that we all know well and expect to have another great season, Victor Carbone, who is also driving for Sam Schmidt Motorsports. Sebastian Saavedra, who makes his return to Firestone Indy Lights after a year last year running for Conquest Racing in the IZOD IndyCar Series. Conquest Racing has opted out of the IZOD IndyCar Series, and Sebastian Saavedra has opted to come back to Firestone Indy Lights. He was third quick. And Mark, yet another talented rookie that we think is going to have a big impact, Oliver Webb from Manchester, England. Oliver is also driving for Sam Schmidt Motorsports, and he was fourth quick in the first practice session earlier today.
I talked to Sam Schmidt just a few moments ago, in fact, before the cars were hauled out, and I said, so where does this group of drivers stack up in comparison to the impressive list of drivers that you have employed in this series? He said, well, I think I'm going to have to go some, no disrespect to these guys, I'm going to have to go some to beat that bunch that we had last year.
Yeah.
He said they were extremely impressive. He said, however, he said, looking at it on the surface, the chance for us to be equally as successful this year is pretty good. He's a lot of variables there. He said, for one, Esteban Guerrieri has the jaw locked because, Mike, Esteban feels like he just flat threw away the championship.
And he did.
Year.
I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Sam
Yep.
said that. But as far as Victor goes, he's thrilled for Victor that he appears to be fast out of the gate here. He said they went into last season with a plan for Victor Carbone. That plan was to get laps because, Mike, that young man had been in racing for all of 2 seasons before he got into a Firestone Indy Lights car. So Sam said nobody at Las Vegas Motor Speedway was more surprised about him winning than I was. He said, I was absolutely shocked. And he said, so that shows us that Victor is a bit ahead of the curve. And he said, you know, Oliver's an outstanding driver. He said, we expect great things from him. He said, but, you know, for Victor to have the sort of success that the other drivers had last year in 2012 would not surprise him in the slightest.
As we mentioned earlier, and cars rolling out on track, and they saw the green flag last time by. Gustavo Jacquemin currently out in front. Keep in mind, quickest lap that was turned by Vautier in the first practice session at a minute 8.0333. Right now, some 2 seconds quicker than the best lap right now. But really, guys just getting out, Mark, getting those tires up to temp and finding some room to run out there on this 14-turn, 1.8-mile course. But David Ostella, as we watch the replay on the big screens of the spin earlier, heading into turn number 10, Jorge Goncalves, as Mark mentioned. Mark, we saw a couple of IZOD IndyCar Series drivers have problems in the same place there with the braking point. Dario Franchitti, the defending IZOD IndyCar Series and St. Pete winner, had an issue down there. And then, of course, the session ended with Charlie Kimball in the tire barrier in turn 10. So turn 10 right now, as usual, is a tricky part of this race course.
Well, and an added caveat, if you will, to this Firestone Indy Lights Series this year is the fact that they are employing a different tire compound than they used last year. It's going to pick up marbles quicker. It's going to go away quicker.
A little softer.
Last year was, as Sam Schmidt put it, a bit of an anomaly from the standpoint that it gave guys a false sense of security and perhaps made some of them think that they were actually better drivers than they were. That's going to be taken out of their hands, and they're going to have to learn. You know, for instance, he said you could get 150 laps out of a set of tires last year. You're not going to be able to do that this year, especially if you drive the car in too hard to the corners and you chew them up. So certainly tire management and patience going to be a factor in the Firestone Indy Lights this season. The one guy, Mike, that I talked to about that didn't really seem to be too overly concerned about it was Sebastian Saavedra, because he said, in his opinion, the tires that they're using now happen to be a better compound than the tires he last drove on in the Indy Lights a couple of years ago. So he's not really as adversely affected by the changing compound like the drivers are who were in the series last year.
Well, we've got some good action out on course right now, being led by Victor Carbone, Sebastian Saavedra, Esteban Guerrieri, your top three. So 3 familiar names. Oliver Webb is 4th, and Carlos Munoz is currently 5th. The wind, it looks like Nick Yeoman picking up dramatically, and now it's shifted a bit as it's blowing hard out of the west.
Yeah, you know, Mike, I'm a little surprised because you mentioned right out of the gates the speeds were not there for this second practice session. Obviously, a little more track time and one practice session under the belts for these teams gives them a little bit better idea of what they want to do setup-wise, but the conditions quite a bit warmer. It was 72 degrees this morning for the first practice. The ambient temperature now up to 81. The track temperature, that's where the big difference is. We've seen Ferraris, we've seen the Star Mazda series, the USF 2000s, as well as the IZOD IndyCar series have practice sessions out on this track already. The track temperature this morning was at 80 degrees. It's now at 100 degrees. That's 36 degrees warmer than what we saw this morning. So the temperature's certainly getting warmer. It's going to give a little bit slight different conditions for these drivers to attack here in practice session number 2.